On this edition of Goffstown This Week, we revisit our interview with the school resource officer about what you can do to keep track of your kids' phone habits. We check in on a busy meeting schedule with 3 things you need to know, and we say goodbye to the school sports season, wrapping up 105 sporting event broadcasts that GTV volunteers covered this school year. It's all coming up on Goffstown This Week. Hello and welcome to Goffstown This Week. I'm Adam McCune, your host for the show and coordinator here at Goffstown Television. With me is Jacqueline Pelletier, the Goffstown Police Department and the School Resource Officer. Hello and welcome to Goffstown This Week.
Thank you for having me.
You're in the school and you see quite a bit of what happens with cell phones, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
I do, and I see it on a daily basis.
A daily basis, so let's just dive right into it. I want to see like examples. No, I don't want to see the examples, but I want to hear about the examples of what's happening in our schools here in Goffstown specifically.
Sure. Whether it be a student coming to me or a guidance counselor, almost every single day there's at least one person that's coming to me with regards to an issue that they're having with a sexually explicit photograph of either themselves or them receiving that's been blasted out that they no longer have control over.
And this isn't just something you're hearing about that's happening in, some faraway place. This is happening here, this building that we're in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's happening every day.
That's kind of scary. As parents in the school district, it's kind of scary to think that, they have cell phones out there and they're doing some things that if the parents knew what was happening, they would be livid with their kids, I'm sure of it.
I would hope so, and I try to educate these kids that once they take this photograph, for regardless of whatever reason that they took it, once it's out there and the damage is done.
Right, and there could be some big repercussions for that. I know, like going on, like right now is the NFL draft or the NFL combine. Those kids are under a microscope from the time they're in high school through college and everything. What if some student here is good at some sport? A college recruiter is going to go look at all of that.
Absolutely, and a lot of kids will lose their scholarship if they have anything inappropriate that they're blasting out or on their social media. And these kids are on their social media all day long. Whether their families know it or not, they have the ability to hide it, and it's at their fingertips, unfortunately. Now,
I'm of the assumption, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, the kids are kind of on like Snapchat. They may have moved on to something else by now. I don't know, it might sound like old to them. But Facebook is that's like for old people, to the kids in the high school.
Meaning like you?
Meaning like me. They almost have like a Facebook, I feel, like just to appease their parents.
You know what? Some of them probably do. And yeah, they have the Snapchat, they have Instagram, a new one that I just learned about is Musical.ly, and all of these applications have a mechanism of messaging one another. And so this is how these kids communicate, whether they're communicating with their friends or strangers. They're letting strangers into their world by just communicating with them and sharing vital information that they shouldn't be sharing.
Right. They could think that they're protected because it's just their friends on Instagram. Yet they'll put out a hashtag that's like 603 Goffstown, and all of a sudden everybody knows where you live, maybe your first name, what your friends look like. That's scary information to give to a stranger, especially someone on the internet.
Absolutely, and what these kids don't realize is that all these devices that we have at our fingertips, our cell phones, they have GPS. You take that selfie in the bathroom, right, and now you've just, locked in your coordinates for someone to click on that photograph and find out where you're located, whether it be at the school, at home. Right. You're just giving all that information away.
It's like EXIF data or something like that, where it says like where it was taken, the IP address. I mean, they can know some pretty personal stuff about somebody just by looking at a picture.
Absolutely.
Now, I know Snapchat is popular. I don't understand Snapchat at all.
I don't understand it either.
I know that the logo is a ghost, and that's kind of their thinking, is that this isn't permanent. And I think there's a false sense of security with that, with the kids, where they think, well, I send something out on Snapchat and it's gone and nobody will ever keep it. But they take screenshots, they do all sorts of things. It's really important to stress, like, once you give out information on the internet, you lose control of where it goes.
Absolutely. No matter where you send it out, by the time you think someone's deleted it or you've deleted it, somebody else hundreds of people could have already clicked on it and saved it. You don't know who has that picture.
That is so scary.
It is.
And I think the kids grasp that?
I don't think they grasp it until it's happened to them. I think that, unfortunately, with the mainstream media and the lack of accountability on their part with their cell phones, they don't realize how sacred their bodies are, and they fall into the peer pressure, or they're in that dating relationship where they're peer pressured, or they just feel like it's appropriate to send out that explicit photograph of themselves, and then once it's out of their control and they break up and it gets blasted for whatever reason, then they realize, oh my goodness, what did I do?
Right. Thinking back when, I'm glad none of this was around for me when I was in school, but everything seems so permanent when you're in high school. It's like the biggest thing that's ever happened. Forever. It's just like, we're going to be together forever, And, we chuckle about it now, but it's very serious to those kids, and they don't see the big picture that it may not. In fact, it's likely that it won't last.
Yeah,
forever.
And I tell these kids it's the I love you forever for 20 minutes. And that's what it is, and whatever happens in that relationship, whether, they share the sexually explicit content or photographs, and they have this sense of security that, my boyfriend's never going to share that information. And then a week later, a fallout happens for whatever reason. Yeah. And to get back at them, they're blasting it out.
That's awful. That is something that terrible people do. It's also something that kids do in our school that just don't understand what really the ramifications of that.
And they're not thinking, about their future at this point. Employers look at, Facebook pages and all this social media that's out there. And when you're doing inappropriate things and it's out there, and they get their hands on it, they may make a decision to go with a different candidate, or you may lose your scholarship as a result of doing something of that nature.
How many political careers are being ruined right now in Twitter?
Probably a lot.
We can only hope, right? Now, talking cell phones, we've got, situations where parents, like, they'll go out and they'll get, 3 or 4 cell phones, and one goes to their teenage son or daughter, and then they just kind of let it go. And even if the parents check, there's ways that they can get apps that hide some of this stuff, right?
Yeah, and all parents have to do is actually Google how to hide my photographs, my text messaging. I mean, some look like a calculator.
Right.
If you click on your child's calculator and you need a passcode to use it, there's probably a problem.
Why does my kid have 4 calculator apps? They're just that studious. That's what it is. They're studying so hard. They want to have
absolutely.
multiple versions.
I was a student of that nature. Absolutely, very studious.
I want to have 6 calculators, but that's one of them that they use is calculator apps. And
absolutely.
It's not just like.
And they're free apps, and it's out there. All you have to do is go to your app store and look up, how to hide these messages, and it's right there to download.
Wow.
Super simple, right at your fingertips.
And what kind of, so it's just like messaging apps they'll put in there? What else do they have in those?
They're really just messenger apps or a place to hide your photographs. So that way it's not in your camera roll.
Gotcha.
So if your parents were to go through and look at your photographs, you would just see your norm of photos.
Right.
But then you go into a different app where that's where most kids are hiding their inappropriate photographs.
Gotcha. That's frightening. I have a son. He's actually out in the hallway here, who's going to be in the high school next year. And I just, putting myself in the shoes of parents, like it's a frighteningly brave new world, and I don't know how to react to any of this.
It's tough, and we encourage parents that if you are going to buy your kid a cell phone, that you should tell them and make a contract and say, hey, this is what we're outlining. If you are going to have a cell phone on our plan and we're paying for it, we are going to go through it. Yeah. And you know what? That gives if you do a contract with your child, gives a visual statement for them to read and understand, okay, well, my parents told me that they're going to go through it. And you should go through it. Yes. Absolutely. Yep. Because you don't know what's going on with that cell phone when they're in their bedrooms or at school. I mean, these kids are on their cell phones at all times, all day long.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have
it's
to
in their face.
Limit that, as much as you can. It's tough because I know a lot of parents, they want to be like friends with their kids, and it's tough. You got to like put the hammer down every once in a while.
It's a balancing act because you want to keep them safe as well, and they're obviously not thinking about the future and where that content is actually going, and whose hands is it going to be in.
Right. So you send something out on the internet and you lose control of it.
Absolutely, full
That's
control.
A big one. Some of the kids just don't really understand or grasp that their body, their naked body is that's all you got.
Absolutely. And especially for a girl, your reputation is all you have. And girls can be really, really mean. And once it's out there and other girls are hearing about
other
it.
girls that can be mean to other girls?
Absolutely.
Really?
I hate to admit it, but
It does
being
happen.
one of them, it happens. Not this girl. But it gets really, really tough. And high school's tough as it is.
Right.
With the social pressures and, doing the right thing. And these kids are pressured all the way around with sex and the media. It's all thrown down their throat. And I feel like they're just being forced to grow up and do things that they shouldn't be doing at this age.
Right. Well, this is eye-opening. This is happening right here. This isn't somewhere else. This isn't turning a blind eye. This isn't, that's a Bedford problem. This is a Goffstown problem.
It sure is, and we do the best that we can. We're in the schools, we're educating the kids, and half the kids will be like, no, I would never do that. But then I have kids coming to me saying, it happened to me, and I have to say, we had this conversation, what happened? I just wasn't thinking about it.
And how often do you have that conversation?
A handful of times thus far this year.
Really?
Yes.
That's scary stuff. Well, thanks for talking with us on Goffstown this week. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of follow-up. Maybe we'll do a follow-up on this and see where.
Love to be here.
We won't put anybody on the spot though. Don't worry about that. That'd be awful. But thanks for talking with us. This has really been interesting to find out what's happening.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, we'll have some scores and talk about the playoffs for sports in just a bit. Here's 3 things from this week's meetings that you need to know. At Monday night's school board meeting, the school superintendent told members that he recently participated in a town meeting regarding traffic. He said officials want to make changes to alleviate traffic backup at the roundabout at Wallace Road. Because of a drainage project at the high school, a road is going to be widened. Officials may allow students to enter through the back of the school. This change would take some vehicles out of the line of approximately 300 vehicles that drive by the front of the school. Economic Development Council on Tuesday discussed the possibility of the town adding a part-time or full-time employee dedicated to economic development. The new person might serve as an ombudsman to business community, write grants, applications, and help guide people interested in starting a business through the permitting and approval process. The new position could be created through a warrant article, be included in the town's operating budget, or be a position shared with other communities. On Wednesday night, the Zoning Board of Adjustments held a 4.5-hour meeting where they voted on 7 separate applications. On Thursday night, members of the Planning Board heard a proposal from a 2-lot subdivision on 431 Elm Street. Hearing was continued from May 11th. Several residents expressed concerns about water and drainage at Thursday's meeting. The Planning Board will discuss the application again on July 13th. And that's 3 things from this week's meetings that you need to know. To watch the meetings in their entirety, you can catch the replays on Channel 22 or find them on our on-demand Vimeo page. On Thursday, the softball team ended their run with a 2-1 loss to Pembroke Academy in the playoffs. It was the 12th softball game our volunteer crew had filmed this year, and it was the 105th and final broadcast for the 2016-2017 school year. This amazing effort was done with the help of 38 volunteers and started back in August.
Welcome, Grizzly Nation, to 2016 football here at the Grizzly Den.
Students, parents, coaches, and just fans in town all pitched in. We've covered champions and champions of spirit.
There's a ground ball, and it gets by! It gets by! They're gonna win! They're gonna win! The ball game's over! Goffstown wins!
We've shown heartbreak and loss, and the glorious triumphs that are the thrills of sports and varsity athletics.
Oh, and Skinner gets the dunk! Nice move. Quick shot, and it's in the goal! Lajeunesse with the goal on the backhand in overtime.
No other community in our state, maybe even New England, comes together like this. We may have broadcast 105 games, but the bigger number is 38, as in 38 volunteers, dedicated to making a great thing happen for our students and for our community. So let me be the first to take a moment to say a huge thank you for all you have done. You make our community a truly great one indeed.